Bryan Kohberger attacked these 4 kids in their beds in Moscow, Idaho. And Ted Bundy did the same thing to a bunch of sorority girls, to other women, many other women. He attacked them in their beds while they were sleeping. And now Bryan Kohberger, speaking of him, is actually wanting the prison authorities to feel sorry for him because he's getting threats of being butt-effed. That's the term that was used against him by fellow prisoners. Good. Suffer. Who says prisoners don't have a heart? I'm sorry, but I'm like sitting here watching these reports, Maureen, of what the prisoners are threatening him with and like allegedly flooding his cell with overflowing toilets. And all I can think is, I'd like to shake their hand. I want to know who these good prisoners are who are trying to do what the justice system failed to.
Agreed. Have you heard about the complaints he's leveled? I mean, he's apparently made his complaints known in writing because he's having trouble sleeping. Irony of ironies. Oh,
I know.
You're having trouble sleeping because all of the inmates in this prison have taken it upon themselves 24/7 to be howling and catcalling through the vents so that he doesn't have a moment's silence. And I love it. I love it. And I think that there are active conversations about how long they wait until they just murder him in prison, like how much they can make him suffer. How long he'll have to live with that sword hanging over his neck, that he's going to die, but they're just figuring out the most painful and lengthy way to make that happen.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Who are these wonderful men who are willing to do this? I'm sorry. I realize this is very, I don't know, somewhat evil. I don't care. He ended these 4 people's lives in the prime of their youth while they had no chance to defend themselves, though they tried. He stabbed Xana Kernodle over 50 times as she fought for her life, the deep gashes all over her hands as she tried defensively to put her hands up. That's Xana on the right in the orange blouse. And not to mention what he did to Kaylee, who's there right next to Xana in this photo, who he beat the living daylights out of as she fought to save her life too. I mean, the stab wounds to their faces, including Maddie's right next to Kaylee in those photos. Who gives 2 shits that he cannot sleep at night or that they are threatening him with sexual assault? This guy actually thinks he's checked into a Marriott, Maureen. His sexual harassment report, it reads as follows. The prison report reads that this prisoner submitted a concern form stating that he, quote, has been subject to threats and harassment, recently escalating to overt sexually violent threats and statements. He received the concern form on August 4th, 2025, conducted an interview with Kohberger in J Block, which is where he's housed. Kohberger stated a resident that goes by Peru told him, "I'll butt F you." Kohberger also stated an unknown resident from Tier 1 of J Block said, "The only ass we'll be eating is Kohberger's." Oh, was it scary to feel out of control and in danger? That didn't make you feel good? None of us gives 2 shits.
You know, to just address the top of what you just said there, I often really relate to the God of the Old Testament, the God of wrath and vengeance. And, I think the God of wrath and vengeance would be just fine with what is being meted out to Bryan Kohberger, who has the temerity to complain that he's being sexually harassed when this latest document dump from the authorities contains multiple witness interviews from women who said he was harassing me. He would keep me from exiting rooms by blocking the doorway. This is a big, big guy. He would follow me to my car. Multiple women, he would follow me. He had this thing that he loved to do, which was to go to a professor's office at closing time or an eatery, an establishment, whatever, as they're about to close and walk in and keep talking and never stop. And this was about power and control and dominance and contempt. I control you. There were many formal reports made at that university. This guy makes me uncomfortable. He stalks me. He has cornered me. He stares at me. He stands in front of me. He stands over me. He doesn't do anything. One professor said, this guy's a potential future rape. First of all, this guy's in a criminology course. You're telling me this school couldn't ID this guy as an offender? Is escalating? Is it true that those who can't do teach?
Yes, Maureen, I had the same reaction where she's referring here to the supplemental reports that we're getting. Well, they're not supplemental, but to some of the reports that the police took while investigating this case that we're just now seeing thanks to the lifting of the gag order. And that was my reaction too, which is like, how did it take Washington University anything more than a beat when these murders happened to say, I know who did it? I guarantee you should at least be questioning this guy, Bryan Kohberger, who, we are 10 miles away. And speaking of Ted Bundy, all of his original murders happened in Washington State. I do wonder whether that's why Bryan Kohberger went out to Washington State for his PhD. And look, why was it? They were all complaining about him. They were worried about him. They were predicting he was going to behave criminally. And then 4 people, including 3 young women, get murdered. How did it take them as long as it did to say, that's the guy?
First of all, after the murders, he's showing up to class in a heavy coat covering him neck to wrist to, and it wasn't weather appropriate. He's got bruises and cuts all over his hands. He's drinking heavily. He had, by all reports, never been a drinker before. He was unraveling. He looked like it's all the markers of a major offender. But what bothers me so much is the lead up to me. This guy screamed, he's an offender. He is harassing women. He is making them uncomfortable. There were, I believe, at least 13 written complaints about him stalking them out to their cars. There were multiple women who refused to even walk to their cars alone once the sun went down. I mean, you know how early it gets. I mean, dark it gets early in the fall months, especially.
Yes.
I mean, and then there's this one thing in the report where the complaints reached such a crescendo. And I really think this is a direct result of this coddling culture that we have in America that seems very stubborn. The complaints about Kohberger alone reached such a crescendo that the university decided that they were going to hold a group meeting for all of the students about what constituted appropriate behavior, even though it was only directed at one person, Bryan Kohberger, who sat in the back of that classroom the entire time with his head in his hands, staring at the ceiling. Why was there not a direct come to Jesus with Bryan Kohberger? You knock this off, or we're kicking you out of school. You'll get a tuition refund, and security will make sure you never show your face again.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's like they knew they had a problem. And when I was reading these documents, my first thought was that I heard Steve Gonsalves say he wasn't planning, at least immediately after the verdict, or not the verdict, but the plea deal, on suing the University of Idaho, for failing to keep the students safe. And they were living in an off-campus housing area anyway. But now I'm wondering whether he should consider a lawsuit against the University of Washington, where Kohberger was. I mean, 20/20 hindsight, I get it. You can't necessarily say this guy's going to be a killer, but I certainly hope that the lessons will be taken to heart here. And you know what, Maureen? It's just part of like an ongoing, even post-Me Too pattern of women's complaints. It's like, whatever, there's nothing we can do. I'm sure she's overreacting. So he's a little creepy. It's like, no, women have a sixth sense. It's a gift. It's the gift of fear, per Gavin DeBecker. And you would do well to listen to it. It's like a superpower, not to be ignored, but to be thankful for and to listen to. And had they done that and ejected this guy from the University of Washington, it's not too far to say those 4 kids might still be alive today. So what do we think the effect of the sparring between President Donald Trump and the Fed is going to be? Can the Fed take the right action at the right time? Do we trust in that? Or are we going to be looking at a potential economic slowdown as they slow roll any of their moves as they worry about his tariffs? And what exactly does all of this mean for your savings? You might want to consider diversifying right about now with gold through Birch Gold Group. For decades, gold has been viewed as a safe haven in times of economic stagnation, global uncertainty, and high inflation. And Birch Gold makes it incredibly easy for you to diversify some of your savings into gold. If you have an IRA or old 401k, you can convert that into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold, or just buy some gold to keep it in your safe. First, get educated. Birch Gold will send you a free info kit on gold. Just text MK to the number 989898. Again, text MK to 989898, and you'll start the process of just getting the 411 on what it means to own gold. Consider diversifying a portion of your savings into gold. So if the Fed cannot stay ahead of the curve for the country, at least you can stay ahead of the curve for yourself. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.